Hello, dragonflies! Welcome to the Gilmore Girls podcast, where we take a deep dive into each episode of the beloved show.
We're your hosts, Sarah
and Ani.
We're huge Gilmore Girls fans, and we're besties. In this podcast, we talk about everything Gilmore, from the pop culture references to the tiniest minutia only a true Gilmore nerd would care about.
Pepper boom!
Hi! Hey, Ani!
This is the first time we've ever done this together.
We are in the same room, at the same time, in the same place.
It's amazing. It's exciting. We were going to do it in New York. We didn't have any of our stuff.
We didn't have any of our stuff. We didn't have time.
And we don't usually talk to each other standing this close together.
We're like so close right now.
It's pretty funny. Well, so we apologize if there's any weirdness with the audio. It is what it is. You know, we're doing what we can with our little amateur stuff here.
Yes. So fun fact, we actually recorded this a week ago, or
more than a week,
2 weeks ago, and there was audio issues, and so we're trying it now.
Trying it again.
Yeah,
because we love you guys and we don't want to put out something that's crappy sounding. We want it to sound good for you. So we're doing it again, and hopefully it'll be just as amazing. So what are we doing today?
Okay, so today we are doing season 1, episode 16, Star-Crossed Lovers and Other Strangers. The story is credited to Joan Binder-Weiss, and the teleplay is credited to John Stevens and Linda Loisel-Guzik. It was directed by Leslie Linka Glatter.
That was a mouthful. Well
done.
That was
a mouthful. Thank you.
Okay, so here's your synopsis of this episode. This episode aired on March 8th, 2001. Love is in the air as Stars Hollow gets ready to celebrate their annual Founders Day Firelight Festival, commemorating the founding of their quaint little town. Everyone seems to be enjoying the lovey-doveyness, except for Lorelai. In the midst of her persistent case of the grumps, arrives the mysterious Rachel, Luke's long-lost love. Rory and Dean celebrate their 3-month anniversary, while Emily invites a ridiculous blind date for Lorelai to Friday night dinner. Let's just say the evening does not end at all romantically for either of our Gilmore girls.
All right, so today in our Fast Facts, we are doing a guest star spotlight. We are featuring today Lisa Ann Hadley, who plays Rachel. According to her IMDb page, she was born in Seattle, Washington in 1970, and she earned her BA at Pepperdine University. She appeared in several television series and movies from the mid-90s to 2002. And I was so ecstatic to figure out where I had seen her before, because it was always driving me crazy every time I saw her. And so doing my research, I figured out that she was in General Hospital and its spinoff Port Charles as Dr. Julie Devlin. She also had roles in Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Melrose Place, and the horror movie Infested. Her last credit was 2002, and I was unable to find anything about her life since then.
She vanished from the face of the earth.
She seems to have.
Who knows? Maybe she's behind the scenes. Maybe she's doing because you would have seen that.
It would have been on
like
her IMDb. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. But speaking of Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, I used to be a huge Xena fan.
Yes.
What I loved about her is that the show made her seem like a gigantic Amazon goddess.
Mhm.
And I was like, I love that. Being tall, it always made me feel unfeminine, but she was so awesome, I loved that show. And then the last thing I wanted to say here was, did you watch a lot of soap operas, Rory?
General Hospital and Port Charles, I totally did. And actually, when I was much younger, my grandma used to watch the CBS soaps, Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, As the World Turns, Guiding Light. I would spend a lot of time with them in the summer, and I would usually end up watching it with my grandma.
But some of these shows have been on for 30 years?
More than that.
More than that?
Yeah, I don't even know. See, unfortunately, most soaps are gone now.
Okay.
I think there might be a couple of stragglers still around, but yeah, most of them have been replaced now with talk shows or game shows. So it's very hard to find soap operas anymore.
That makes sense, though, if you think about it, like the demographic that was watching them, I guess so. All right, so the next one isn't really a fact about the episode, but the amazing Kelly Bishop, who plays Emily Gilmore, has just released a new memoir. It's called The Third Gilmore Girl, which is, how adorable is that? And the foreword is written by none other than Amy Sherman Palladino. It's available now wherever you get your books.
And let's just mention that we're not getting paid for that plug.
Oh, it's just a plug.
It's just a plug because
I love her.
Yes. All right, well, let's dive into our recap, shall we?
Okay.
Okay. This episode begins with folks bustling around the town square, getting ready for the annual Founders Firelight Festival, with the legend of Stars Hollow's founding being narrated by Miss Patty.
It's a story of true love. Two star-crossed lovers from different towns run away late one starless night. They each got lost in the dark, and just as they were about to lose hope of ever finding each other, a band of stars appeared in the sky.
The stars shone so brightly, they led the girl to the spot where the town gazebo stands today. And there stood her true love, who had also been led there by the blanket of friendly stars.
It still blows my mind that we toured that and we were right there. We were like, did we go in the gazebo?
We did. I think we have a picture. I have to find those pictures.
Share our pictures.
We
with people. Not
should.
that they care, but they might care. Pretty cool. Do you remember when I think we were standing over by Luke's, and then we looked over to the place where Miss Patty's dance studio normally was, but it was gone?
Yes.
Which is so sad.
It is very sad. And we also learned that the water fountain from the Friends opening used to be like right in there too, in that patch of grass there across from Luke's next to Miss Patty's.
So for the super nerd fans, when Kirk opens his outdoor diner, way later in the series, that little patch of grass where he does that's where they would have put the fountain. And that's where that was filmed.
Yes.
That blows my mind. I bet you we have a lot of crossover of like Friends fans and
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, after the intro, we open with our resident Rhodes Scholar, Dean Forrester, waiting for Rory after school.
I'm so proud of that line.
He's reading and, not surprisingly, failing to understand Anna Karenina, which he was encouraged to read by Rory, of course. I don't understand why she would give him that book of all the books in the world to read.
There are so many better books. No offense to the Russians out there or whatever, but come on. I mean, it's thick. It's hard to get through.
Yeah. And, we do have to give credit to Dean for at least attempting to read the book.
Yeah. And also that he's smart enough to know exactly how dumb he is. And he admits to Rory, that Tolstoy may be a little over his head. But Rory tries to tell him, no way, dude. Tolstoy wrote for the common man, forgetting perhaps that your average peasant in the 19th century in Russia was still more intelligent than Dean. Have you ever read Tolstoy yourself?
I have read Crime and Punishment in high school for my honors literature class.
Was it interesting?
I don't remember. I really don't remember much about it. I mean, it was like 25 years ago.
Yeah. Oh my God. Tolstoy tried to read Anna Karenina in college, couldn't get past like the 4th chapter because it's just so thick and boring. So no offense to our literature fans out there. Maybe we should give it another try now that we're older.
Maybe. Maybe. Well, moving on.
Yes.
Rory asked Dean to go watch the festival bonfire with her after Friday night dinner. She says it's corny, but it's really pretty, and they sell star-shaped hot dogs, Ani.
You know what I saw the other day online on the interwebs? I saw somebody made a hamburger hot dog hybrid.
What?
Where like they cut the hamburger and placed the hot dog in between, and the bun was shaped to fit both. I don't know what this monstrosity is. I don't even know if it's real, but wouldn't that be amazing? I would love to have both.
That sounds crazy.
Because sometimes in life, your choice is hamburger or hot dog, and you're like, I can't choose. I don't know. I want both. Well, there you go. What would it be called? Ham dog?
Hot burger?
Hot burger?
Burger dog?
You ever watch
Ham dog?
Welcome to Good Burger, Home with a Good Burger? Can I take your order?
My brother loved that show.
Yes. Me too. I'm sorry to say. Me too. Theoretically, though, if you were to imagine it, star-shaped hot dogs, how would that work?
That I don't know. Like a hamburger, I can understand
because you mush it.
Yeah, you can mush it. You can use a cookie cutter. It's so weird being
Hi.
next to you.
Hi, Sarah. And it's a good thing that it's not 1,000,000 degrees in my house right now because oh no, wait, it is, and it's super humid.
So reminder for everybody, I live in Los Angeles. Ani lives in Hawaii. Yeah, but I mean, we got a lot of fans blowing on us. It's not so bad.
Not so bad as long as you stay perfectly still.
Yes.
Do nothing else.
Dean asks if she can actually get out of Friday night dinner this week for a special occasion. Their 3-month anniversary.
Do you remember when 3 months, like in high school, felt like an eternity?
Yes.
It really did. It was like, oh my God, the school year will never come to an end. I actually remember hitting the 3-month mark with my high school boyfriend, and it was a really big deal. Like he had saved up to take me to a fancy restaurant, whole thing, just like Dean did, I guess.
That's so cute. So I had a time continuity observation here. So this is 3 months after Rory's birthday, presumably, right? Because that's when they started dating, was her 16th birthday. So that would mean that it's January right now
Correct.
in New England,
where it snows.
and there's no snow, not a flake of snow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's no snow anywhere.
Yeah.
So what's happening here?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, sure. I mean, I lived in Michigan and we would have Januaries without snow.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's still cold.
Right.
It's like
And
bitter
they're-
cold.
And they don't look like they're like bundled up.
No, it looks like it's fall.
Oh, this is really weird. What do you suppose they did there?
I don't know. Maybe just maybe it was just a, continuity error kind of thing.
So they just hoped that we would know, because this show, obviously this show aired in March, so maybe they were just, I don't know. I'm confused. All right, good times.
All right. Then that night at the Gilmore house, Rory averts a disaster by preventing Lorelai from cooking. Now, not a feast, mind, just a very complicated box of hamburger helper.
I will admit there was a time in my life where I went around saying, I don't cook, I don't cook, I don't cook. But I since learned, thanks to my wonderful husband, he's taught me a lot. And now I really like to cook, but there are times when I'll look at the back of a box and I'll just be like, huh? Like even that seems really complicated. So I feel for her here. She says she wants to like really cook, like with the chopping and the sauteing. She wants to be the Iron Chef with a box of hamburger helper.
And Rory initially gives in and agrees to help, but then Lorelai reads the back of the box and appears to struggle with the concept of a pan. So Rory mumbles something about needing a fire extinguisher. And also, side note, I love how she looks in the oven for a pan, indicating that they clearly only use their oven for storage.
So funny. Doesn't this come up later where Lorelai uses her oven just for like drying her socks or something?
Probably,
Like, I just never use it. So Rory inquires into Lorelai's sudden and unusual desire for domesticity, and it turns out she's in a funky mood due to all the stars and the love, blah, 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 going on during the Firelight Festival.
It's like there hasn't been a whole lot going on in the Max Medina department lately.
I'm so sad.
Rory reminds her mom that she also owns a phone, meaning that she could reach out to Max herself. She doesn't have to sit around waiting for him.
Lorelai quickly changes the subject, to which Rory replies one of my favorite lines ever, Cleopatra, Queen of Denial.
Rory then segues into asking her mom for a favor. She needs to get out of Friday night dinner to celebrate her anniversary.
I have to side note here that I appreciate, because I'm a giant nerd, I appreciate that she says this sentence in a grammatically correct manner. She says Dean's and my anniversary, not Dean and my's or Dean and I's, as I usually hear people say, which drives me completely insane. Did you notice this?
No. I don't think most people did.
Come on, Dean and I's. You hear people say that all the time.
Oh yeah, no, I do.
It's not a sentence.
Okay, well, even though Lorelai is happy for her kiddo and her anniversary, she's basically like, good luck getting out of dinner. She says, do you know how much Emily Gilmore will not care about your 3-month anniversary? But being the nice mom that she is, she agrees to help anyway. Oh, and I have a background catch.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. So when Lorelai gets up to get the phone for Rory, as she's crossing the kitchen, you can see the boom mic dip into frame at 7 minutes and 8 seconds.
Hot dog.
I
never catch those.
Star-shaped hot dog.
Star-shaped hot dog. That's very exciting. I need to go look for that because I never catch those ever.
I normally don't, so I was so excited when I did. And then also one final note, I love the impression of Emily that Lorelai does while she's waiting for her to answer the phone.
She's, oh, I'm going to do a cartwheel. It's so great.
Such a posh accent.
So she gets Emily on the line and she explains the situation. And to Lorelai's total shock, Emily quickly and happily agrees to let Rory have this Friday off. No hesitation, no passive aggressive comments, no you'll owe me big time, just a simple, sure, that's fine.
Lorelai hangs up and announces the world is officially coming to an end.
Something sneaky's happening.
Yeah, I can't believe that the wheels didn't seem to turn in her head, that there might be more to this.
I mean, Emily doesn't do anything for nothing, you know?
Mm-mm.
Well, the next scene is at Chilton, where we find Tristan Dugray majorly macking down some chick in front of Paris's locker. I'm telling you, if we were caught doing that at my high school, we would get into serious trouble.
For the Gen Zers out there, macking down was a 90s expression for making out.
Macking down.
Macking down.
That was the expression, right?
I think so.
Or macking on, maybe?
No, I think down.
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
It was making out. It was kissing. It's smooching.
Smooching.
Or what do the British people say? They say
Snogging.
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 All right.
Well, Paris is obviously annoyed and she shouts at them, "Spawn in front of somebody else's locker, please."
Rory approaches because her locker is in there somewhere too. And with a hilarious expression, she goes, God, look at that. It's like he's eating her face.
And then Rory says, "I'm assuming your locker's in there somewhere also." But she would have known this,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we've had scenes where they've been addressing each other at
Yeah.
their lockers.
That's kind of a weird line there.
Well, finally, Rory manages to get them to scoot down just a few feet. And as Paris is getting her stuff, the chick, who we find out later is named Summer, tells Paris she ought to get bangs because she has a long forehead.
By the way, incidentally, that chick Summer, we probably mentioned this a long time ago, like in the first episode. She's in the first episode. She's one of the girls in Rory's class at the other school.
At Chilton, or not Chilton, I'm sorry, at Stars Hollow.
Yeah, so I'm sure she's not the same character, but it's the same actress.
Suddenly, Madeline walks up and invites Summer and Tristan to a party at her house, and she also invites Rory and Dean. As Tristan makes his exit, he says, "Ah, to be young and in love." To which Paris says, "What a shame Elizabeth Barrett Browning wasn't here to witness this. She put her head through a wall."
So, of course, being a giant nerd, I had to look this up. And Browning was the 19th century English poet best known for her sonnet 43, How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways. Pretty famous. I'm not going to read it here, but I highly recommend you look it up. It's short and it's so beautiful. And also, so here's a background catch. If you check out the inside of Rory's locker door, she's got the words baby spice in one of those circles with a slash, like a cancellation sign, right at eye level. What do you think that's about?
I don't know. I saw it too. It's very weird.
Very random. That's
Yes.
very odd. Of all the Spice Girls to detest, why would it be that one? She's so cute.
Well, now we're at the Independence Inn, where we see a very cranky Lorelai walking through the lobby, making faces at all the couples that are coupling all over the place. She also walks in on a bit of an intimate moment between Jackson and Suki in the kitchen. And then finally, we hear Michelle on the phone with a mysterious someone. Even he seems to have a date. Finally, she just can't take it anymore and she leaves. And then, as she's walking through the town square, she's nearly crushed by a falling, gigantic, decorative star.
What a way to go. She walks into Luke's diner and says, "Coffee, please, and a shot of cynicism," which is on the Gilmore Girls candle/mug that you gave me, which is on my bedside table, and I love it.
Yay! Did you notice that Lorelai asks Luke how his day is going? And he says, "It's looking pretty good now." Could he mean because someone just walked into his diner?
I think that is what he meant.
Well, Luke then inquires as to her awful mood, and Lorelai says there's no particular reason for it.
Except we know that there is.
Mhm.
In the background, we hear Taylor Dozy and Miss Patty debating what the Firelight Festival's big bonfire is supposed to symbolize.
Taylor appears to think that the star-crossed lovers built the big bonfire to throw themselves upon when their families found them out.
Miss Patty has a much more reasonable and less horrifying explanation, which is that the lovers built a fire to stay warm on their first night in Stars Hollow.
That makes much more sense.
Yes.
Lorelai throws a little hissy fit and cries, "Can nobody talk about anything but the stupid festival?"
Which, if you know Lorelai, is kind of out of character for her. Normally, she's like super into the town stuff and she loves to celebrate.
But then she calms down and she does admit that it is a beautiful festival and she doesn't know what's wrong with her, although we all know that she is perfectly aware of what is wrong with her. Indeed.
So Luke replies that the festival is crazy and goes on to say it's based on a nutty myth about two lunatics who, in all probability, did not even exist. And even if they did, probably dropped dead of diphtheria before age 24. Luke rant. Love it.
Lorelai is majorly digging Luke's hate and loathing, and she says, "Tomorrow, I'm planning on despising everyone who says, 'Hey, how's it going?'" And just at that moment, a mysterious woman walks into Luke's diner, looks at him and says, "Hey, how's it going?"
And we find out that we have just met the famous Rachel. Can we just say, this woman is insanely beautiful. Like, she looks like a work of art. She looks like something stepped out of a Botticelli painting. And she has the perfect hair, the hair that I wish I could have and never will have. And I love how we're supposed to understand that she's an adventurer because, note, she's got on a leather jacket, a crossbody bag, and a handkerchief tied around her neck. She's Indiana Jones.
All she needs is a hat.
I know, right?
Now, I do agree that she's beautiful, but I don't think she's Elle McPherson beautiful, like Suki said a couple episodes when we first learned about her.
Agree to disagree, my friend.
All right.
No?
Luke just kind of freezes up for a second, and you can tell that Lorelai looks really uncomfortable, like she's somehow intruding.
That was very awkward. Rachel says she was just wandering through O'Hare Airport, saw that a plane was taking off for Hartford in 20 minutes, and suddenly found herself on that plane. What a free spirit, huh? Perfect for Luke.
Yes, Mr. won't ever leave my hometown. And you can tell that Luke is still harboring some resentment towards Rachel for not staying in touch and for bailing in the 1st place. Lorelai awkwardly tries to make conversation and rambles for a bit, as she does,
Yeah.
and then pivots to, "Why were you in the Middle East?"
Talking about like, what was it, coffee pots and stuff? Just so
Yeah.
stupid. After hearing about the terrible first world problems Lorelai has to deal with at the quaint New England inn she works at, Rachel says, I was doing a photo story on how Palestinian and Israeli families have been affected by the violence. But she delivers this with absolutely no judgment or conceit, just a matter of fact. And I have to say, I call shenanigans. There's no way a person this beautiful is also this humble and nice. No way.
Lorelai then feels thoroughly stupid, as I think probably we all would.
Yeah.
And she quickly makes her exit by saying, "I have to go sit in a closet or something."
I feel so bad for her here.
No. In the next scene, we see Lorelai helping Rory get ready for her big date and sharing what happened earlier at the diner. She's still in a funky mood and finally admits that she misses Max. She's briefly distracted by the image that she creates, though, of Rory and Dean reenacting the spaghetti scene from Lady and the Tramp.
I love that song. That song that plays during that scene. Oh
Mhm.
my God, it makes me cry. It's so
So
sweet.
beautiful.
Well, Lane came over because she's so excited for Rory's big milestone anniversary. She says, 3 months, that's 1/64th of your life. And I thought about doing the math, but it made my head hurt, so I stopped.
So I looked it up for you.
You're a good
And
friend.
thanks. According to the interwebs, that is correct.
Okay.
Mhm. Well, Rory asked Lane if she's going to be at the Firelight Festival later that night, and we learn that Lane will, in fact, be attending, but she's going to be there on yet another date set up by her mother, this time with a future chiropractor. She's Hermione's looking at me weird. She thinks her mother's losing confidence in her ability to snag a doctor,
Yeah.
so she's gonna have to settle for a chiropractor. They'll be chaperoned by at least 10 of his family members, so it promises to be a super fun evening for Lane.
I feel so bad for her.
Poor Lane.
So Dean arrives honking the horn to alert Rory. Rude. What a romantic start to the evening. The boy can't even get out of his car for their 3-month anniversary to pick her up at the door.
Seriously.
What the heck?
Lorelai shows up late for Friday night dinner, which Emily proclaims rather than saying, "Hello, you're late." Lorelai makes her way into the sitting room and, lacking her usual buffer, meaning Rory, she awkwardly tries to make conversation with her father.
Oh my gosh. So she starts babbling like she normally does when she's nervous, and she nearly destroys her mom's figurine collection. I don't know how she manages. And then that prompts Richard to say, just sit down with your hands in your lap, like she's a small child.
Yes, I totally felt like we got a glimpse into what poor Lorelai's life was like.
Yeah.
Well, Emily comes back into the room and within 10 seconds manages to throw a passive-aggressive barb about Lorelai's inability to stay in a relationship. As Lorelai goes to make herself a drink, someone rings the doorbell, and Emily goes to get it, even though we've previously established this is the maid's job. Lorelai offers to freshen Richard's drink, and he replies, "No, thank you. One drink before dinner is quite enough." But remember that one drink.
Hold on to that one. So Emily returns with the biggest tool of a man you could possibly imagine. He is the platonic ideal of a male wasp with a voice to match. Emily introduces him as Chase Bradford, played by actor Paul Cassell. And oh, would you look at that? He grew up just around the corner from them.
Chase Bradford.
Chase Bradford. Are you white? Let me check.
Well, it turns out that Emily is in the DAR, or Daughters of the American Revolution, with Chase's mom. And since he just moved back to Hartford, it seemed like a nice idea to invite him to dinner. Oh, isn't that sweet? Sweet. Lorelai recalls the Dobermans that used to live at Chase's house, Leopold and Loeb. So I had to kind of look up Leopold and Loeb because I assumed, they had to be somebody.
Yeah.
Well, apparently they were murderers in the 1920s. This is Nathan Leopold Jr. and Richard Loeb. And they actually killed a teenage cousin of Leopold's just because they wanted to prove their intellectual superiority and commit the perfect crime.
Did it work out?
No, because they got arrested eventually. So I guess it wasn't so perfect.
Wow, that is creepy. I know I've heard Leopold and Loeb mentioned in the past. I don't remember in what context, but what was it about that story that made them so famous? That it's kind of a common thing for people to say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder if just because the names are so weird.
Well, they just, I think they were Ivy League educated and just, they were very smart. And so they just thought that they were so smart that they could get away with murder.
It's so creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Richard was not aware that they would have an extra guest for dinner, and both he and Lorelai immediately recognize what's going on here. Emily has arranged a little setup with Connecticut Ken.
Lorelai asks to speak with her mother in private, and after some back and forth, Lorelai figures out that this explains Emily's miscongeniality act when Rory requested the night off.
And then when Lorelai says, I appreciate all this, but I can get my own men, Emily chuckles dismissively and explains that Chase is a quality man with good breeding, you see. He comes from a nice family and makes a good living.
Are we talking about a human here or a show dog?
It's some kind of horse or something?
Lorelai tries to explain that this guy is just not her type, to which Emily replies, tonight, your daughter is celebrating her 3-month anniversary. What was the last relationship you had that lasted that long?
You know, she's not wrong, but I'm like, Emily, your daughter has emotional baggage. Whose name is on the tag, you think? You raise someone in a waspy household and then you're surprised they don't know how to give and receive affection? Well, I guess relationships for these people are not about affection. It's just your duty. Like you get married. That's what you do.
You get married, you have babies, and the husband goes to work and
you stay home and I don't know.
Go to the DAR, apparently. So. The ladies enter the sitting room to find Richard and Chase engaged in what I'm sure is a fascinating conversation about actuarial tables. You can tell from Richard's interaction with Lorelai here that he is almost as perturbed by Emily's scheming this evening as Lorelai. Chase offers to make Lorelai a drink, to which she replies, just gin. Richard says, make that too. Then Lorelai asks him, well, what about your one drink before dinner rule? And he says, we're celebrating. And there's a bit of side-eye involved from Richard.
The two of them are both like, ew, gross. Yeah. So next we see Rory and Dean at a restaurant with itty-bitty tables and waiters dressed like penguins. So you know it's fancy.
Looks like Dean has been saving up that Dosie's Market paycheck for a while because he orders 3 different kinds of pasta so that Rory can have anything she wants for this special occasion. And now, I think we do have to give him some credit here. He really did go all out and he really did want this night to be special for her. And it starts out very sweet.
But we find out that the night is not over yet. Dean has something else very special planned. Back at the Friday night dinner from hell, Chase asks Lorelai if she's also in the DAR, to which she replies, no, DARN, which cracks her up, but nobody else seems amused.
I thought it was hilarious.
Great.
Richard actually rolls his eyes at that. Come on. Emily quickly changes the subject to Chase's employment journey. Apparently, he moved away from Hartford to make his fortune, and then his company gave him the opportunity to pick his next locale. It's all very fascinating.
It's not that he's a bad guy or anything. He's not even completely unattractive, like in a conventional sense, but he's just so utterly and painfully boring. It'd be like dating a very expensive station wagon.
We also hear the name of this week's maid, Lee. When Lorelai tries to escape to get Richard more food, Emily responds, Lee will get it. Next, we see Dean and Rory walking to the town square just in time to catch the bonfire lighting. We see old Mayor Porter ringing in the festivities, not Taylor Dosey. And of course, no one brought any matches.
I just wanted to note here, Taylor's official title in this episode, it's Recording Secretary for the Stars Hollow City Council. Note that later on, when he's officially running things, Taylor is not mayor of the town, like Mayor Porter, but rather selectman, whatever that means. I don't know. Is that a small town thing?
I don't know.
What did you guys have?
We had a mayor.
A mayor. And your town was how many?
Less than 5,000.
Interesting.
Well, back at dinner, the Gilmores are being regaled with details from the enthralling world of actuarial science. Why do I always have to be the one to say that word?
It's lucky.
Both Lorelai and Richard look like they're about to chew off their own arms out of pure boredom.
Emily, ever the gracious hostess, suggests that Lorelai and Chase make their way to the sitting room for some brandy and stimulating conversation.
Lorelai pretends to head off to the powder room, but instead makes her way to her childhood bedroom and starts sneaking out the balcony window.
Just then, Richard comes to the door to ask Lorelai a question and catches her mid-escape, and Lorelai expects him to admonish her, but instead, surprisingly, he does her a solid and tells Emily that he couldn't find Lorelai upstairs.
And I thought that was especially sweet considering the last episode, they had that huge fight with Christopher and his parents.
Yeah, and we left that scene feeling like he was majorly disappointed in her and whatever, that she had ruined her life. So the fact that he's on her side in this one, it's really nice.
Yeah. Well, next we see Dean taking Rory to a salvage yard. How romantic. But then he shows her a broken down heap that's been picked clean of all parts that would help identify the wreckage as a former car. And Dean tells Rory that he is building her a car from scratch, piece by piece. It is a huge endeavor and a tremendous act of service to demonstrate his love.
Rory is super excited, of course, and says, "This is crazy. Why would you do this?" And Dean says he doesn't want her to waste time on the bus anymore.
It's very sweet. Well, they clamber on in because the new seats have already been installed. I feel like he did that on purpose. And they snuggle up. And Rory says, "We're having one of those moments right now when everything is so perfect and so wonderful that you almost feel sad because nothing can ever be this good again. If only she knew." Because in just a few seconds, Dean's going to lay on her the big three words. He says, "I love you."
A look of panic settles on Rory's face, and she freezes up, and all she can say is, "I love the car." And Dean is understandably hurt and says, "You don't love me." And Rory replies, "No, I just have to think about it for a minute."
Again, Dean makes a lot of sense and says, "This isn't something you have to think about. You either feel it or you don't."
Poor Rory begs him not to be mad and says she just needs a minute to process everything, but Dean just says he's going to take her home.
This scene is so brutal, and I feel so bad for both of them. And I'm actually going to say it. Poor Dean.
Poor Dean.
You can tell he's been building up to this all night, and he's obviously shocked that he's not hearing the answer that he wanted. And then, poor Rory, who has not had she's had a stable home life with her mother, but, she's not really had a good father figure in her life.
She hasn't had a model for what a healthy relationship looks like.
Right. And so she's completely caught off guard, and she looks like a deer in headlights.
I thought she did a really nice job in that scene.
Yeah. Well, next we're back in the town square and we see Suki and Jackson being all lovey-dovey. And Jackson says, "Do you know what I'm thinking about right now?" And Suki replies, "That time I roasted some red peppers over the stove burner and singed off my eyebrows." God love her. He's just like, no. And while this is happening, Rachel's in the background snapping pictures of folks. Hope she got release forms from everybody.
Don't you need permission to, I guess,
if she's gonna publish them, she should.
So Rachel sits down next to Luke on a bench and he finally asks her, what is she doing back in Stars Hollow? Okay, old tech alert. She's putting real film in the camera in this scene. Have you ever seen lately, does anyone still do this?
I don't know. I think some photographers still do because
like real photographers.
Yeah, because they like the way that it looks versus like digital. And even like some filmmakers
will still
use real film. If we have any photographers out there,
I would love to know what you guys think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hit us up on our socials.
Indeed.
Rachel says that Luke doesn't seem very happy to see her, and he points out that maybe it's because she has a tendency to just show up and leave quite suddenly.
Finally, Rachel admits she doesn't know what she's doing in Stars Hollow. She just missed Luke and wanted to see him. But hasn't it been like 8 years?
I guess,
that if you look at what we know about Lorelai and Luke's relationship, like how long they've known each other, and she didn't know about Rachel. So yeah, it's been like 8 years.
It's been a long time. But sometimes, I guess you still have that someone that's always on your mind. Well, Rachel asks then, what's the deal with Lorelai? And Luke can only bring himself to say that they're friends, though at times it seems like, I don't know.
She goes off to get some Founders Day punch, which, by the way, is the first time we hear about this notoriously strong drink.
It sounds amazing. I want to try it.
Right. And we see poor Lane in the background, absolutely miserable on her quote unquote date, walking along in a somber procession of very bored looking potential Korean relatives.
It looks like a funeral procession.
It's very sad.
Well, just then, Lorelai approaches and takes a seat next to Luke, and she asks about Rachel and tries to figure out what's going on between the two of them. And he doesn't know if she's staying, and he doesn't know if he wants her to. He says that she doesn't have the greatest attention span.
And then he says something very uncharacteristic of Luke. He says, "You spend a lot of time debating things. Is it right? Is it wrong? Should I do this? Should I do that? Sometimes you should just jump in and take a shot. What's the worst that can happen?" Okay, spoiler alert, cut to the end of season 6 where Hamlet over here can't make a decision to save his life and he loses Lorelai over it. Where the heck is this Luke when we need him?
Oh no. Well, in the final scene, we see Lorelai head back home and she's calling Max Medina. She gets his answering machine, another old tech alert, and she's about to leave him a message when Rory enters looking absolutely heartbroken.
She says, "We just broke up," and Lorelai walks over and gives her a big hug. End scene. And that was Star-Crossed Lovers and Other Strangers. Thanks for listening.
Join us next time when we discuss Season 1, Episode 17, The Breakup, Part 2.
Copper boom.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share with your friends.
If you have any questions or comments, if you feel like we left anything out or got anything wrong, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at the Gilmore Girls Pod. And we also have a Facebook page.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes.
Copper boom!